Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again. Just wanted to give you a bit of a final conclusion about the Burning Arrow character that I showed you guys in the last video. So as of now, I did take it through to Uber Itziri as well, which, you know, is a pretty bad idea for Ignite-based characters because of the large amount of Ignite unfriendliness throughout the bosses. Though the trash clear was pretty damn amazing, it was very smooth, and I thought probably one of the better trash clears I've had on a lot of characters. So the vials, as I've mentioned before, when you first kill one of them, if the other one is alive, he will be enraged and he'll be Ignite immune. I luckily managed to kill them at pretty much the same time, so that went down pretty uneventfully. As for the trio, once again, the last one you leave alive will be Ignite immune. So that makes the last, I don't know, just sort of single one-on-one boss fight a little bit tougher, since you are relying entirely on your initial hit damage and no real Ignite based damage. It took like maybe another 30 seconds to a minute to kill this guy. It just means you have to do a bit more running around and kiting, you know, better than that right there, and you know, avoiding doing damage slower. And then Itziri herself, of course, is Ignite immune, and that becomes a real fucking issue, and it took quite a while to get the fight down. So the ads themselves, you pick one that can be ignited, you attack it, chances are it dies pretty damn quick. Itziri cannot be ignited, and boy oh boy did it take me a while to get her down. Something like a 5-minute fight maybe, whereas normal on, you know, really good characters it's only like a minute. She did still die, but it's not an easy fight by any means. Then went back, did a couple more, you know, Guardians here or there, a few more Chiyula runs, quite a few more Chiyula runs actually. I did end up leveling from like 91 to 92 fairly comfortably, fairly consistently. Chiyula runs are great for XP, and the character did really well for clearing that sort of shit up. It's a really nice character for mass clearing at this stage, whereas its single target lacks a bit, but hopefully that'll be fixed in the next patch, Legacy League that is, with the threshold jewel that allows you to apply 2 ignites from your Burning Arrow. So the single target still is okay, but it's not one of the most mind-blowing single targets in the game currently. Maybe with 2 ignite stacks that'll change. So that was all I wanted to show you as far as a little bit more boss clips and gameplay goes. I just want to go over how the character is built now, in case you want to follow this in the future yourself. As well as that, I also wanted to just go over how Burning Arrow can potentially be built for the future, because as I mentioned, this jewel right here that's coming in a few days for the 2.6 patch should make Burning Arrow a pretty substantial source of Ignite for a lot of your, you know, even more simpler Burning Arrow builds, and I might want to try and touch on how we can build those, and hopefully I might go over that or try and build one myself in the next few days too. But what we're talking about here for our current character is we're using Death's Opus, we're scaling crit, and the point of doing that is, well, you get a really large amount of crit multi from the Death's Opus. You get 2 additional arrows, so we have 4 arrows in total with the Dying Sun, and that means that your prolif is almost always going to be really good on, you know, packs of monsters, and you won't ever have to swap out a GMP for a slower proj, for example, and, you know, have to mess around with your single target that way. So it kind of just saves you a bit of effort and a bit of time that way, but you don't necessarily have to do that, and I'll go over that in a second. But for this character, as crit, Death's Opus, 550 crit multi, that means, you know, we're hitting 5 times harder than just a normal attack. You'd have to find quite a lot of scaling throughout the tree to overtake that for a normal sort of attack-based build. So we still get a lot of the projectile damage here. We still get a lot of the elemental damage, but if you're going pure projectile and no crit, then you're going to save up, you know, 10 points maybe from the crit nodes, here, and here, and here, and then you'll reallocate them to get elemental overload, maybe some more fire damage and all that, and you know, hopefully try and build a tree for the coming days. So, you know, you could do that, and then also wear a drill neck. That's 100% additional proj, but that will only work if you're wearing a Zophs. In any case, for this build, we've chosen Death's Opus. It is, I think, the best choice. Much better than Reach of the Council, because Reach of the Council would require you to use a Crit Strax gem, and you you wouldn't get the same level of crit multi, nowhere close. You get a little bit more physical damage, because Reach of the Council, the nerfed version, isn't even that much better than a good Death's Opus. So Death's Opus is the goal here. And then the rest of the gear is just pretty generic CI gear, you know. It's going to be hard to get early on in the league, I would think, but it's, you know, just energy shield all over the place. And opal rings, pretty important. Try and get those if you can, because elemental damage double dips, of course, but getting the right resists and all that could be expensive, so it's not very much of an early league character. Then we do have Signal Fire. Since we're using a Death's Opus, only 50% of my damage is converted. Signal Fire converts the other 50%, and of course we have 100% fire damage on Burning Arrow. Using something like a Zophs, however, converts the other half, meaning your pure fire damage, and that's when you can use things like Drill Neck. But at this stage, an additional 32% extra fire damage is quite substantial as well, so that's you know, a good choice anyway. So that's basically the character. Also, the enchant here is pretty substantial. 15% of Burning Arrow physical damage gained as extra fire damage. So what we're talking about here is 56k. Put that on, that's 5,000 damage. It's about a 10% tooltip gain from that enchant, so it's pretty nice. Now, in the future, you know, this is the character, and it's going to be tough to build for most circumstances. Especially at the start of a league. In the future, I think a nice budget one would go well with a Lionized Vision, a Zoph's Nurture, depending how accessible it is in the new league, and probably a Drill Neck. So you will still convert 100% of your fire into 100% of your fears into fire with Burning Arrow. You then have Zoph's Nurture, which spreads your Prolif or your Ignites into Prolif, so you don't have to go Elementalist. You can pick another Ascendancy like a Deadeye, or probably even a Raider, or even a Pathfinder, you know, all of those. You could even build around a Berserker, you could build around Chieftain, you could go Scion, you could go Elementalist again. You know, that's sort of, it's kind of flexible, you can do a lot of things. But the goal is to be non-crit in this whole setup, and using a Lionized Vision, you'd then be, of course, life-based, and you'd get an extra link. So from that scenario, I think we have our new text from before. That was the previous 6 link I had, but I replaced over here, but I replaced added fire with less duration. If you use this, you can then use a full-blown 6 link with added fire as well as less duration, and then chances are you probably use GMP most of the time, since you would need it, and early on can't get a Dying Sun, you're not going to be using Death's Opus, so you'd probably replace Slow Approach with GMP, chuck in Slow Approach for boss fights, and it will be pretty substantial single target. I have a feeling that a full non-crit version of this, scaling all your projectile damage, your fire damage, and with a Zoph's Nurture, I have a feeling this could have better single target than my current build, especially with the Threshold Jewel that gives you 2 different Ignites, or 2 Ignites stacking on top of each other. So I think it's something very worth exploring, because the first time I tried Zoph's Nurture, as you may remember, was with a Chieftain, and I built it fairly crappily. It was a crit base, and I didn't do that much double dipping. So ideally you do want to focus a lot more on your projectile nodes, on your elemental nodes, on your fire damage nodes over here, and your elemental overload rather than pure crit base. I can get away with a crit base here because I do still have a lot of double dipping throughout the tree, and this is a much more crit centric bow, so I have a lot more crit multi, a lot more crit, so you can still get away with it. But another thing I never had was elemental equilibrium, which, as I explained in the other video, is extremely important for ignite based builds, because you need to reduce the elemental resistances of the thing you're attacking so that the ignite can do additional damage as well, rather than just your initial hit. Things like penetration, fire penetration, only penetrate the initial hit. Your ignite then will be ticking on a resistant monster if he still has resists, whereas elemental equilibrium takes away the monster's resists, potentially even into the negatives, so it gives you even more damage than possible. And that's why EE is so vastly important for ignite builds. So I do think there's very high potential for a Zoph's Nurture build in Legacy League, and I'm going to try and explore that over the next few days myself. Other things to mention, I suppose, I was using Discipline and Herald of Ash most of the time for my 2 auras for reservation. I then also threw in a Herald of Thunder, so Herald of Thunder was good for helping proc my Elemental Equilibrium. My main setup here was Vaal Haste, Vaal Discipline, Ice Golem, and Duration. I had a Cast Wind Damage Taken setup with Immortal Call, Duration, and Vortex, and the Vortex is there primarily just to proc every now and again, drops the circle, and things inside it get chilled, so it's a nice little defensive mechanism. And then we had Orb of Storms, Power Charge on crit, Flammability, and Curse on hit in our boots. Something I did get asked quite a lot was why no Vaal Burning Arrow setup, and simply I couldn't make it work in a chest, in a CI-based chest. A Vaal Burning Arrow setup would look very similar to this, and you'd probably have room for 1 blue, which would be Conk Effect. Yeah, 5 off colors is ridiculous. So if you're going a setup like this, you could probably fit in a Vaal Burning Arrow, and then that's potential for even better single target. Bandits, I will also mention, I suppose, for this CI version was passive, attack speed, and power charge. So hopefully in the future we can make some sick Burning Arrow builds together, or make your own, and something to look forward to with the Threshold Jewel. But for now, that was the character. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope it inspires you to maybe look into some Burning Arrow of your own, and I'll see you guys next time.